The next session is on achieving 100% renewable energy. In this session, the panel will discuss the opportunities and challenges in achieving 100% RE for CNI consumers. For this panel discussion, we have with us today Mr. Bose Varghese, Head of Green Initiatives at Infosys, Mr. Kuldeep Jain, Founder and Managing Director at CleanMax, Mr. Akhil Agarwal, Director of Power Management at STT GDC India, Mr. Bipin Odhekar, Head Operations Excellence and Sustainability at Marico, and Mr. Srini Viswanathan, CEO of Vibrant Energy. We would also have a short presentation by Mr. Charan Kuppili, Technical Director, Jinko Solar. The session would be moderated by Vinay Rustabi and Mr. Varun Agarwal, Associate Director, Sustainable Business at WWF India, which is also a strategic partner for this event. We encourage you to ask questions pertinent to the topic. We would try to answer them towards the end of the session. Over to you, Vinay and Varun.
Thank you. Vinay, I'll start with your permission.
Please.
Thank you very much, Ankita, and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this session, Achieving 100% RE, Opportunities and Challenges. I think since morning, as we're all aware, the theme of this entire conference is to talk about the corporate renewable segment and the CNI consumers. I think it's been reiterated, I would say, enough number of times that CNI consumers are, I would say, a major stakeholder in electricity consumption in India, and half of the total electricity in India is consumed by CNI segment. But if we look at the actual uptake or the actual consumption of renewables or the share of renewables, it only stands at around 7%, which is very meager compared to the huge potential that the CNI segment has. Also, I would also say that CNI segment is a crucial stakeholder and a very, very important partner for our government's ambition and to achieve our national and international commitments that we've made as a country. And also it makes perfect sense now with renewable power becoming cheapest, I would say, the cheapest option in the market compared to brown power and conventional source of power. CNI consumers have a very strong financial incentive to switch to renewables. Also, additional benefits of renewable power consumption are in terms of carbon emission reduction and compliance with the RPUs. As a result, there's a spike in the demand of renewable power that's required in the market that the CNI consumers want to procure. Also, many consumers have announced voluntary targets to enhance their corporate renewable power procurement, I would say, portfolio and to go even 100% green. And we have one of the first Indian companies, we have Bose from Infosys, who represents one of the first Indian enterprises which committed to RE100 in India. And we would like to hear from other CNI consumers as well, what drove them to make such ambitious commitments, where they stand right now, what is the status of their corporate RE procurement, what drove them to such an ambition and how they are faring and what are the challenges and way forward in that. We would also be deliberating on understanding, in addition to their experiences, what has held them back. For example, some of them are stuck at around 50%. And what is it that needs to be done to catalyze the entire, I would say, the landscape or the ecosystem to lead up to 100% achievement of these RE commitments that the organizations have made. And also, we would also request all of you to make certain recommendations. And unfortunately, Mr. Jagdale, the Joint Secretary who was supposed to join us, isn't with us today. It would have been, I would say, excellent if he would have heard the CNI perspective. And also, we have two developers who will be talking about their perspective as well, how they see the market evolving, what are their offerings, how they can support and enable this entire, I would say, ecosystem and enable the CNI consumers in their crusade to go 100% renewable. So without further ado, I think with this context of this session, I would like to invite Mr. Charan Kuppili, Technical Director, Jinko Solar, to share his presentation with us before we go into the panel discussion. Mr. Kuppili, over to you.
Thanks, Varun. Quickly, I'll start with the presentation. Hope you all can see my screen. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us for this particular session. Quickly, I'll just go through this particular presentation. As you all very well know, right from the inception of Jinko Solar, we have delivered more than 70 gigawatt of capacity. And for the last year itself, we stood as number one as a market share leader, market holding leader specific to all kinds of regions, which is what has been noticed in most of the regions. And this is one of the slides which captures where exactly we have our factories within China and outside China. And this is more specific to module and cell manufacturing. Of course, if we just try to see, this is one of the market share that what we actually have for 2020. And we could see that for most of the majority markets, we stood as number one with majority market share holding percentage. And specific to Indian market, we could see 22%. And if we just try to see, since this particular segment is completely focused on C&I and kind of rooftop kind of segment, even in that particular segment as well, if we just try to see, we stood specific to that particular market share holding as number one. Not just limiting to that, I'll just quickly try to wrap this presentation within very short time, in which you are much more interested in understanding the key concepts of what exactly is required for the C&I segment. If we just try to see, we are a completely vertically integrated manufacturer right from the ingot, which is starting from polysilicon to ingot to wafer to cell, and then cell to module. So we offer solution as a kind of module, as a kind of direct PV solution to the market. And within this particular module segment, if we just try to see, now a lot of optimization is happening. Within the P-type segment, if we just try to see, 192 wafer size is leading the market from front up to power class of around like 610 or 600 kind of watt-peak power class. And the same thing, if we just try to implement the same kind of concept with 192 wafer size on the N-type kind of technology with a PERT or TOPCon kind of technology, definitely that makes much more sense. And that makes much more, that provides higher energy density and high power density kind of technologies within the same segment. And if we just try to see the same thing, fortunately or unfortunately for specific to Indian market, it's more of the C&I segment or the rooftop segment always tries to follow the footprints of existing utility scale segment, which is why it does not require much optimization or customization on the C&I segment or rooftop segment specific to PV technologies. It's just that we just need to go with the customization on the structure part or on the module mounting structure part. Not specifically on the PV technologies, but yes, if we just try to see the mature markets where exactly what is happening in the C&I segment and on the rooftop kind of segment is BIPV is a kind of solution which has taken much more better shape for the regions like Europe and US, where they started implementing not just only as a kind of PV solution, but yes, BIPV plus LDSS, long energy, long duration energy storage kind of solutions is one definite kind of option where other mature markets are targeted on this particular aspect. And eventually we could even sense that for our Indian market also, maybe down the line after 4 quarters or 8 quarters, we could see that the transformation on this particular C&I segment and rooftop also can go towards it can incline towards BIPV plus ESS. Already ESS is in better shape when compared to BIPV, but yes, this is one typical kind of solution offering which we are offering to the Indian market. So this is a platter full of products that what we offer to Indian market. If we just try to see on the segment of which particular PV solution suits best or which provides better LCOE, definitely higher power class, high efficiency, high energy density kind of technologies makes much more sense. Down the line, 8 quarters before or 12 quarters before, if we just try to see 156.75 used to rule the market. And now for 2019, if we just try to see, it's only 158.75 wafer size, which ruled the market. And now those all particular wafer size modules are completely vanished from the market and they got superseded. Now the only offering which is there from the market is 192 wafer size or 210. 210 is not so matured when compared to 192 wafer size. The reason is just because of not just because of the size, but also specific to if you just try to see the energy density or the specific power density, it is just standing at the same line with what 192 wafer size module is trying to provide. So here 192 wafer size is Tiger Pro series where we can get up to power class of around like 550 with 72 number of cells. The same module or the same cell with 192 wafer size cell, if that is going to go around like 78 number of cells, that can go around like up to 585 watt peak with P-type. And the same thing if you just try to do with N-type, the same 192 wafer size cell with 78 number of cells, it can go up to 610 watt peak kind of power class. This is a recent innovation or the technology optimization which has happened with N-type, wherein which the recent SNEC is a kind of stand good example for most of the industries, for most of the PV global landscape itself has understood that almost top type players are trying to provide these kind of N-type kind of technologies. And if you just try to see this particular P-type, P-type PERC is something that we could see that maximum efficiency on the cell side, on the cell itself is going to get limited with 22 to 23% kind of thing. Whereas for the N-type PERT or TOPCon kind of technologies, it is just starting from the end section of PERC, P-type PERC, and then it is starting from there. It is achieved up to 24.5 or 25.2% with this kind of N-type TOPCon kind of technologies. And slowly and gradually, we could expect down the line after 3 years or 4 years, 28% or 29% kind of efficiencies also can be expected with this kind of N-type technologies or IBC or HJT, which is expected in the coming quarters to be seen. As I was trying to tell you, with the N-type kind of series module, what we could see is that with the same 1i2 wafer size with 78 number of cells per module with the same 10 bus bar kind of technology, what we could see is that we could achieve up to 610 watt peak kind of maximum power class. And this is the maximum power class offering which is going to there with N-type. And the same thing, if you just try to compare with 210 wafer size, the efficiency wise with P-type is going to be a bit lower when compared with N-type kind of series. So, and there are also certain other benefits which always N-type kind of technologies makes better sense when compared to oxidation property, which is why we could see that low degradation property for the first year or the year-on-year degradation is noticed with N-type kind of modules. And with the doping kind of mechanism, which we generally try to follow earlier with P-type. So earlier it used to stand with the P-type of 1i2 wafer size, it was standing at 0.55% as year-on-year degradation. But with this kind of N-type, it was even reduced to 0.4 or less than that particular percentage. And also first year degradation, with P-type, it was standing at 2% kind of first year degradation. Now we can see that with N-type, it is just dropping down to 1 to 1.5% kind of first year degradation. So not just limiting only to the factors of degradation, but also on the factors of high power density, high energy density, and more of high bifaciality factor when it comes for a kind of bifacial technology. All these particular factors adds value in increasing the value of IRR for you and also reduces the LCOE benefit. So this is one of the most important key metric wherein which N-type can be, considered and as a kind of key takeaway for most of these particular technology aspects. And we could see that almost for all these kind of C&I segment, since there is a kind of constraint on the space where energy density is much prevailing factor or metric for them to consider in just getting the higher IRR, definitely N-type kind of technologies makes much more sense. And 610 watt peak is a kind of maximum power class offering, which is coming with this kind of series of 1i2. And if we just try to see, this is a kind of evolution right from 2017 to 2021, we could see that the highest power density has been achieved with N-type kind of technology with 610. And if we just try to see with P-type, it is standing at 580 watt peak with the same Tiger Pro 78 number of cells. And these are different solutions which are there in the market coming to which is coming as a kind of solar PV plus energy storage kind of option, where we started already in the other markets. We are providing our product of energy storage solution as well, not just limiting only to a single megawatt hour kind of solution, or even starting from kilowatt hour solution onwards. If the requirement is going to be up to megawatt hour with LFP kind of solutions, we are providing lithium ion kind of solutions only. It's a kind of complete comprehensive solution depending on the requirement of these particular C&I or rooftop, or even for the RTC tender support, if it is required specific to these kind of megawatt hour kind of solution, where RTC tenders are much more focused on. Even for that also, it is these particular solutions are makes much more sense. And specific to residential segment, 1 kilowatt hour to 50 kilowatt hour, this particular solution is readily available, wherein which it has got solution completely with LFP, with lithium ion technology only. And the same thing for C&I segment, from starting from 50 kilowatt hours to 1 megawatt hour. This is one good solution which is even targeted with a PV plus C&I kind of storage solution, which comes as a kind of complete comprehensive solution. And where for the utility segment, if we just try to see, it comes as a kind of container solution for 1 megawatt or beyond 1 megawatt or kind of solution, which we had a kind of electronic support from many eminent players, which are already proven themselves in the inverter segment on the aspects of ESS and BSS. So that is specific to the energy storage part. And on the world record specific to patents, what we always try to do is not just limiting only to the PV side, but also on the other aspects. But yes, if we just try to see what exactly is required for C&I segment or a rooftop kind of segment, is that high energy density and high power density are the products which is what is required. So in that particular scenario, if we just try to see N-type monofacial or N-type bifacial kind of technologies makes much more sense specific to the highest efficiency. So in solar PV, it's always that highest efficiency is always going to reduce your land consumption. So these are specific to reliability aspects, not just limiting only to the financial metrics of most bankability product, but yes, on the aspects of reliability aspect as well. If we just try to see how good the product is going to perform for the next 25 years or 30 years. So PVL scorecard is one just kind of metric which provides much more confidence as a kind of confidence building metric for the end user in the long term. As I was trying to tell you that 182 wafer size is much more mature when compared with 210 wafer size module. The only reason is that it has got the maturity aspect specific to electrical design parameter, wherein which 182 wafer size module comes with 4 square mm cable, where the maximum ISC or the IMP values will be standing in between 12 amps to 14 amps. The same thing can be used if you are trying to go with a kind of Y connector. So 30 amps fuse is self-sufficient for you to connect 2 different strings for those particular Y connectors. The moment when you are trying to go with a kind of 210 wafer size module, where the ISC is going to stand beyond 20-25 amps or 20 amps, in that case, definitely the existing ecosystem products specific to 4 square mm cable is not going to suit for that particular module. Definitely, you have to increase your cable size as well, and not just limiting to that. Your specific system design on the protection aspects also has to be increased. So which means for the same Y connector, you have to increase your fuse rating also beyond 40 amps. So that itself is not making much more sense on the BOM optimization or on the optimization of LCOE. So there you'll not be getting the LCOE parameter as a kind of beneficial factor. But just 210 or beyond 210 wafer size modules are going to evolve. But that's going to take not less than 8 quarters timeline for that. You know, that itself requires some more time to be as a kind of key runner, which is going to surpass this existing 182 wafer size or 210 wafer size kind of modules. There's one typical slide which clearly explains what exactly is the loss, which is what is happening specific to 210 wafer size when compared with 182. So it is more like 182 is standing at 12 amps, where 210 is standing at 20 amps. We could see that this particular loss itself is going to create the cent difference of overall cent difference of 3.46, which is benefiting the 182 wafer size. But the same thing, if you just try to compare with 210 wafer size, we could see that 3.77 cents is a kind of delta, which is what is going to there between 182 wafer size and 210 wafer size. So with this, we could see that 182 is a clear-cut runner, clear-cut winner specific to the LCOE benefit and increasing the IRR benefit. Whereas if you just try to compare with 210 wafer size, but yes, it is not going to make much more sense when compared with 182, whether that is with 72 cell or 182 cell, 182 78 cell. So it always makes much more sense. And if we just try to compare the same thing with utility scale segment, and the same thing should be applied with C&I segment and rooftop segment as well. So that there also we could see that just 182 wafer size with 72 or 78 makes much more sense in the possible benefits on increasing the IRR and reducing the LCOE benefit. And also it's more of reducing the BOS system cost for that. So with this, I end the presentation and the floor is open for questions.
Thank you. Vinay, you're on mute.
Sorry.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Kuppili, for the wonderful presentation, and I think very promising and innovative technologies, which are going to definitely help the C&I consumers in achieving 100% RE. And with this, I think it's now time to kick off the panel discussion with our distinguished panel. And I'll begin with expressing, first of all, my gratitude to all of you for joining us today for this panel. And also, we look forward to hearing from you, your views on this important topic. And just to build a little bit of a background, especially for the participants who are not aware of why WWF and what's our role. I am from WWF and why we are working on renewable energy. There's basically some sort of, I would say, a little bit lack of clarity. So we run a program called Renewable Energy Demand Enhancement, which we launched in 2018. in partnership with Confederation of Indian Industry. And it's a platform for commercial and industrial consumers, CNI consumers in India, particularly to help them to address the various issues and the challenges that they are facing in renewable energy uptake. Till date, we have 32 corporate groups who are a part of READY program, and I'm happy that some of our CNI members are also represented here in this distinguished panel. So just that background, and also all our conservation work, it has very strong, I would say, overlaps with the energy transition, the entire energy landscape, because it overlaps with all our conservation priorities. And that's why all the various important, I would say, environmental, I would say, considerations are very important for us. And renewable energy is a very, very important piece of the puzzle. So with that, I would just like to begin with the first set of questions that we have, and I'll request all the panelists to keep the remarks brief up to a time limit of 5 to 6 minutes, so that everybody gets their due perhaps time to share their views with us. So Bipin, I begin with you, and I would want to know, I would say everybody would want to know, what are the RE procurement targets that Marico has internally in India? And what's your current status of RE procurement? How much are you procuring, and how has your journey been on this path?
Thanks, Varun. First of all, thank you to the organizers to giving Marico an opportunity to share our journey in this space. So if you look at renewable energy, it's part of the larger program which Marico has on climate change. And there are various aspects and various KPIs which are associated to it. As a FMCG company, we are actually looking at creating sustainable products for our consumers. And from there, actually, the journey started, that how it can be done through various different aspects which are associated with the products. In our operations, we use thermal energy and electric energy. Both type of energies are there. So we started with first targeting the thermal energy and started moving from fossil fuels to agro waste-based fuels. I'm happy to share that more than now, I think 90% of our thermal energy is coming from the renewable sources, which is agro waste. And in electrical, I think there is a lot of opportunities which are there in India, and we are there using solar, we are using wind. So there are various opportunities which are evaluating, but these two are predominantly we are using it. If you just look at the electrical part of it, around 36% of our energy comes from renewable sources. And overall, we are at 72% of overall energy, it comes from the renewable sources. One of our factory in southern India at Pirandurai is a carbon neutral factory. So the entire thermal plus electrical energy is through renewable sources. And we intend to definitely would like to go for a carbon neutrality probably by 2030. We have to look at how the technological developments are happening in India, and then how we can take best use of it. But as an organization, I think there is a strong commitment to go for carbon neutrality, and maybe in the near future, we should be in a position to achieve it.
Thank you, Bipin. And it's quite, I would say, heartening to know that 72% of your total energy footprint is coming through renewable sources, both electrical and thermal. So I would say the organization has been on the right track, taking carbon neutrality commitments, and just particularly drilling down to the topic of renewables. What has been the major driving force for Marico to switch to renewables? So what made you kind of push for renewables internally, and how did it all materialize for you?
Well, as I was explaining you that it all started with our sustainability objectives. So being an FMCG company, I think products become the majority, the most important factor of our business. And then when we started evaluating that, how can we give sustainable products to our consumers, then we started doing an LCN and observed that there are a lot of areas where there is an opportunity to work as far as the sustainable products are considered. Energy being one of the most predominant factor in it, considering the GHG emissions for scope 1 and 2. And then from there, actually, we started saying that what can be done to look into reducing the overall footprint of our products. And as we progress, we also observed that there's a financial benefit to the organization, because renewable sources are definitely coming at at a cheaper expense as compared to the traditional sources. So first few projects actually gave us a financial benefit and good reputation benefit for our organization. And when we published those stories, I think we got very good feedback from our stakeholders, whether it is internal stakeholders or some of our even investors also liked it and praised for those things. And because of that, actually, it has become a larger program within sustainability agenda to go for a carbon neutrality.
Thank you. I think economic advantages and a positive, I would say, reputational reputation enhancement, and of course, the sustainability commitments. So I think your journey in procuring renewables, as you said, electrical consumption currently 36% of your total electrical consumption is coming through renewable sources. So what have been the challenges? Why 36? Why not, I would say, 100%? So what has been stopping you from increasing this number? What kind of challenges have you faced in your journey? Would you like to highlight some of them?
Yeah. See, what happens is that there are a few challenges in India. If you look at the solar and wind energy is considered. So wind is available at certain specific locations, and solar, I think everybody is aware that certain time of the day is when the solar energy is generated. Most of our factories or our processes or operations are 24/7, and we need the energy across the day. And hence we are looking for something which is a combination where we'll get 24/7 also, and it should be available across the locations. That is one part of it. Second important aspect is that, you see, most of our plants are quite old. So it could be 15 years or 20 years old. So availability of space for rooftop or even at ground would be another area where you have to look at what is an option available to you and how you can best those things. Nowadays, things are coming where you can actually do an offsite contract with people and then buy solar energy. And we are actually open for all such kind of opportunities. These are related to the internal part of it, which is Marico specific. Apart from that, there are policy-related issues which we observe that some of the states have different policies related to net metering or how much should be the cap on higher capacity you can put if you wanted to put your own capex. So I think those things also need to be streamlined so that the mid-sized companies, so if your consumption is not more than 1 megawatt, I think there's a huge opportunity, or big companies are in India. And the policy has to be pro for such kind of consumers. And after that, I think the demand will further go ahead.
Thanks, Bipin. I think that's a very, I would say, 360-degree view of internal and very well structured as well, highlighting the internal challenges and also the external policy-related challenges. And that's what we get from most of the C&I consumers, that policy has been a limiting factor going ahead with 100% RE, fulfilling those 100% RE commitments. And so what's the way forward for you? How do you plan to navigate, and what's your maybe short-term, maybe a medium-term plan or the long-term plan? When do you see getting nearer to, say, 100%? And do you have a roadmap in place? How do you plan to achieve that?
Yeah, so as I said, I think we are very clear that we would like to move our manufacturing facilities for carbon neutrality. So as of now, we are at 36% in electrical, and 4 projects are live. They are under evaluation, and maybe another 1 year's time, I think all 4 projects will go live. That is what we look into it. But somewhere I suppose by 2030, we should look at for our own operations, we should move to 100% renewable energy. Maybe I can consider some 2-3 years here and there. But that is what our commitment is. Apart from that, we are also looking at whether our suppliers who are probably dedicated to us or sharing a larger business share with Marico, and we are trying to work along with these people also so that they can also move towards renewable energies. Where specifically like blow molding operation, which is very keen for our type of FMCG space, which is a high energy demand sector is there, and a few of our suppliers are working on that. So I think first phase is internal. Second phase is definitely we would like to work with our suppliers, and maybe a peripheral associate should move to renewable energy. That should be the second target we are looking into it.
Thank you, Bipin. Indeed, I would say a holistic approach of even looking at the supply chain emissions and also targeting your suppliers to take those commitments and ensuring that they also meet and achieve the commitments. Thank you. Vinay, over to you for the next panelist. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Varun. I hope you can all hear me. Akhil, why don't we come straight to you? You are a data center company, large power consumption requirement. I presume your power load is split very even, or profile is very even on a 24/7 basis. How does a company like that with a load like that go and fulfill something like RE 100% RE? Because solar, I presume, you can't take a chance on banking. So I believe with solar only, you will probably get to about 30 to 40% maximum. Just tell us about, what are you doing and what kind of challenges are you facing operationally, policy-wise, and maybe financially as well.
First of all, I would like to thank India for inviting me here as a speaker. So, Vinay, you rightly said, presently we are consuming around 34% of our power from the renewable energy sources. And you rightly said that why we are not able to grow 100% at this point of time, or what are our planning for growing net neutral carbon. You would be very much aware that RE promotion is being evolved, started from the southern region. So if you will see our southern region data centers like Bangalore, we are having more than 90% of our power consumption we are meeting from the renewable energy. As far as other data centers are concerned, like in North India and Western India, like in Maharashtra, this RE promotion came very late. And recently, Maharashtra has opened up their doors for the renewable energy promotion. And from very much starting, they came out with the RE promotion for the captive solar only. And they are not giving any more promotion for the wind. On the other side, the policies are very much frequently changing in Maharashtra. So people are confused whether to go with the pure captive solar RE or whether to go with wind solar hybrid over there, because there is no any policy in Maharashtra kind of a state. In India, only Gujarat is the first state which came out with the pure wind solar hybrid policy. Even though people, developers are trying their best to make wind solar hybrid in Karnataka, but on policy front, there is no any policy as of now. So that is one of the constraints that policy flip-flop is not really making us immediately switch over for 100% of RE. But having said that, we are having our plan to grow 60% carbon-free power by 2025, and we want to have the 100% RE achievement by 2030.
And so you mentioned in Maharashtra it is more difficult.
Maharashtra, recently we have structured a big PPA for procurement of around 100 million unit power for two of our data centers in Pune and Bombay. And we will increase that RE, but we want to go with next set of RE with the wind solar hybrid.
Right.
Even though policies are not there, so on the policy advocacy front also, I would request Bridge to India, I would also request various developers to take up with the Maharashtra government to bring this wind solar hybrid policy, because on a standalone captive solar basis, we cannot replace more than 65 to 68% of our power consumption at Maharashtra from the solar captive. Yeah.
Right. Okay. And where do you think you can get to with wind solar hybrid without any banking of power?
Without any banking of power, wind solar hybrid will give not more than 60 to 70%. Because if banking is not there, then there would be certain time period where we cannot offtake the generated power. So that curtailment would also be there because government policy doesn't support. So if wind solar hybrid will not couple with battery storage, we cannot replace 100% of our consumption, even though we are having RTC consumption at place, but we cannot replace that with RE.
Fair enough. I think before we come to Kuldeep and Srini, why don't you bring in Bose in the discussion and have his perspective also?
Thank you, Vinay. In Infosys, just a brief background, and Bose, please feel free to butt in. We have a very interesting I'd say, CNI consumer here, and you'd made significant strides and had certain advantages in your favor, being in a state which was very, very, I would say, favorable. The policies were very favorable for CNI consumers initially, but now I think there have been certain flip-flops and which have, in a way, affected your plans negatively, which we are all well aware of. So, Bose, without further ado, I'll just quickly like to ask currently, what's the status of RE procurement at Infosys? Where are you at compared to the 100% target that you have? And what are the various routes through which you're procuring renewables right now?
Yeah, thank you, Varun. As Varun said, we have gone down this path a long time ago. I think we signed RE 100 campaign, signed up for it in early 2015. We had all the intent and, probably the muscle power and the money power. And, still we are at about 50% as of last reporting year. And as you said, really helped us being in Karnataka with 3 very large campuses, representing, I think, over 100 million units. And Karnataka policies have been pretty friendly. Even I think, to some extent, the credit of opening up Karnataka market goes to Infosys. We sort of pioneered and pushed that, kind of nudged them into it. So Karnataka, we are actually pretty okay now. We have actually invested in a lot of solar captive capacity. Some of it is in rooftop homes. Most of our campuses, not only in Karnataka, but in many states, we have a lot of rooftops. But, for a big consumer, a rooftop is just a namesake. You can talk about it in terms of, real power. It doesn't really, give you anything significant. But we have some large, in Karnataka, we have a large scale power plant, 40 megawatts. I think a little over half of it is being evacuated now and delivered to us. And we are expecting the remaining will be evacuated and delivered maybe next year. And so, that is our actually mainstay. And as you know, we have campuses across states. Some states we are able to, do some combinations. For example, Chennai, we have an office, we have rooftops, we have some procurement third party. But I think, since there are no government officials here, I can say we have a very large campus in Pune. It is about 20, maybe a little over 20% of our overall consumption. And, I think we have about 1.7 megawatts of rooftop there, but, we need a lot of power to get anywhere. So we are 50, and if we can do Pune, we are like, we could be 75, the next year kind of scenario. So our target, maybe next year with the remaining, the big solar installation being evacuated, we should be well over 60% hopefully next year. And if we are able to crack Pune, which we are attempting in multiple ways, we should be getting close to the upper 70%, maybe, lower 80s percentage in 2023. That's what we are hoping for. And at any time, if the policy opens up, if there is an easier way to really procure more power, we could be in the 90s very quickly. We are ready for it. And as many people have said, what is holding back is clearly policy. Price-wise, I think this sector has really crossed the price barrier. I don't think you can talk about price as being, anymore as the barrier. Prices are favorable. Just the policies are aligned. I think, anyone, all of us, it should be relatively easier. And as you know, under RE 100, we have created and presented 6-point policy advocacy, push. So there is, the state could offer us, green power at green tariff. Again, if it is reasonable, because, that price is already heavily marked up, Then on top of that, another heavy markup is not going to work. If it's reasonable green tariff, then, we are looking at maybe policies to enable captive investments and wheeling back the power, which probably some banking. And to me, open access, is a common enabler.
Right.
So some of these, if they happen, I think we could be, 90 plus in FY 2023 or 24, By 2025, I think, we should be, I'm hoping we should be close to 90%.
No, that's
okay. I mean, I don't know. I hope so.
No, that really sounds like a very, I would say, great, in fact, fabulous plan. You're halfway there. And you already touched on, you already answered my next question, that what would enable Infosys to reach the 100% mark, and you touched on upon green tariffs. So in fact, Karnataka was one of the first states in India to offer a green tariff way back in 2010, 2011, and there was a premium attached to it. And even now, the states which have come up with green tariffs, whether Maharashtra and even recently Gujarat, there's a premium to the tariff. So you're saying that the cost is a major factor and the premium has to be, in a way, either the premium shouldn't be there. I would like to hear from you. If there is a green tariff, what will make it attractive for Infosys, or which other procurement routes will make it feasible for Infosys to reach the 100% mark? Your views on that, Bose.
Yeah, so, I think Karnataka green tariff stands as 50 paise, I think, additionals. Today, somebody you're looking to buy a 50 million units of power, that's on top of, what you're paying them, on top of this heavily marked up tariff we are already paying, right? So that's just, and that's where the huge roadblock is. And you look at the other option of open access, if it can be facilitated or made possible, and your underlying tariff, a third party would probably start with, 285 or, somewhere close to 3 rupees, and then build that up. I mean, that is, the state starts, between 2 and 3 rupees, and all these charges are added up, and we pay, upwards of 7 and 8. On top of that, 50 paise is a huge, cash outflow, right? Now, I think what would be a more reasonable tariff, I think states should look at it as like an open market, competitive system, What additional, whatever they get, to me, is an additional revenue. Because they have this RE that they can buy at a cheaper rate. If they put out auctions or whatever, they will be investors. Now they can buy this, and if they make 10, 15 paise, and they should look at it just like any other investor would, and see, okay, if I offer this, what is the RE volume I can sell? What could be that additional revenue I can make? And that is purely additional revenue. I mean, they are not changing any of their business model. It's just that the bill I'm going to get is going to show that what I got, a certain percentage or all of it is RE. At the back end also, they have to account for their RE, contracts and track that. Financially, it's all win-win for them, and it will just increase their RE demand in the state, and a lot of money can flow into RE. So, they can try starting with a 10, 15%, and see how much additional revenue they make, And then I think there would be, in a state like Karnataka with a lot of IT companies and things like that, I think there would be significant demand for RE if they open up it that way. Because for a company, imagine if that is available, we can cut through all these chasing officials and pushing this paper having this uncertainty, pushing that meter, this meter, all kinds of, efforts and struggles, it becomes a straight through process. And I think at a reasonable tariff, I think we would probably be very interested to do that and cut through all this chase and say, okay, let's just buy that. 50 million, if it's 15 paise or 10 paise, a little extra should be okay.
Great to hear that, Bose. Thanks for your perspective. So, of course, economic case has to be there. There has to be a business case, and 50 paisa or even in Maharashtra, 66 paisa doesn't really make a strong business case for the CNI consumers. Thanks for your views. Vinay, over to you. I know we are running a little.
So let's move on quickly to Kuldeep. Kuldeep, I hope you can hear us. Kuldeep, can you hear us?
Yes, very much, Vinay. Please go ahead.
Okay. Kuldeep, you heard from the three consumers. Basically, the consumers are saying we want more renewable power. We want cheaper power. Banking is something we can't increasingly rely on given the policy landscape. So how do you meet this demand? There is obviously solar. There is, I presume, wind solar hybrid is the next technology route available to you, which I know that you're working on actively. But beyond wind solar hybrid, where do you go? Is it storage? Is it, some other mechanisms like RECs and others? So what are your thoughts on
that? Thank you, Vinay. So Vinay, our view is that most consumers who want to achieve 100% green power can do so. Right.
Okay.
Now, what are the and our finding is it takes a bit of a combination of initiatives to be able to achieve this target that companies have. The combination can be across 3 or 4 sources. I will go with what is. So first, companies can meet, in my opinion, at least 70 to 85% of their power consumption through wind solar hybrid in states where wind is quite germane. These include states like Gujarat, Maharashtra, and Karnataka. And in these states, even if there is no dedicated policy or you don't have annual banking anymore, you can still generate and consume in the same month. Right? So, and what wind and solar allows you to do as a combination is, solar gives you less output in the rainy and windy months when wind power is generating more.
Yeah.
So it's a very natural, correlation and allows companies to meet a large part of their load. So what we have seen in the states of Karnataka and Maharashtra and Gujarat, companies like if you have a stable load like a data center does, we have large data centers in Karnataka who are meeting 95% of their loads through wind solar with the existing state policies, with all the inefficiencies and lack of promotion that states have. But companies are able to achieve 90 to 95% for a steady data center type load. Depending upon the load, the wind and solar mixture can be varied to still give you a very high percentage. At least 80 to 85% should be achievable. And when we do this, assuming it is with some equity infusion from the client, so in a captive power plant kind of legal structure, clients are able to save anywhere between 25 to 35% of their power bill by going green. So this is a carbon green and dollar green initiative.
Okay. And what do you do in states where there is no wind?
So where you have, in other states, like if you take as an example, UP, just as one example, you can still get to around 45 to 50% of your consumption with solar only. Right? With the applicable banking policies of the state. So in states where you can do hybrid, you can get 80 or above. In other states, you can still get to 50. So my point is, this is base load. This is with a 30% or more energy saving. And this is therefore a sort of no regret initiative for any corporate to do.
Sure.
Over and above that, now when you go from, how do you go from there to your 100% aim? I think the single big one route which companies have followed is to buy internationally accredited energy certificates. These are in the nature of IREX and so on, and should be available for 25 to 30 or 35 paise per unit of power. If done in combination with the first initiative of buying energy between 50 to 80%, you can still save money and go 100% green. I appreciate that if you're only buying certificates, it represents a slight cost increment because these certificates are are around, let's say, 30 paise per unit of power. So to that extent, it represents an increase in your energy cost. But if done in combination with buying direct electricity, right, which saves you a lot of money, the combination of the two can get you 100% green with still a significant savings to the energy cost.
Understood. Let me just bring in Srini into the discussion. Srini, sorry, you've been patiently waiting. What about storage or other technologies? I know that Vibrant or its parent Blue Leaf is active in many other countries. Are you offering 100% RE solutions to other consumers in other countries? And what are your thoughts given the Indian policy constraints?
No, thanks, Vinay. So I completely echo Kuldeep's. I think he nailed it with all the key points, right? I mean, we're doing so as developers. We're looking at maximizing solar. We are maximizing wind wherever it's possible. We want to take our customers as maximum as possible. Today we are seeing many of our CNI customers are in the 30%, 40% range. There is still a long way to go for us to take them from 30% to 80%. And then we have to problem solve for the balance 20%. Now, one of the things that we are working on is we are looking at business models around storage. Of course, we are figuring out essentially in the India market, the LCOE on the solar storage wind is still, we are able to make it lesser than grid, but that's still not as good enough for a CNI customer. A CNI customer would like to capture 30 to 35% savings because that's what we're getting on a solar plus wind. Obviously, now we're talking of CNI becoming as good as a utility scale size project. So it's very important that customers, CNI customers, which now actually, we are seeing in the market are signing 20-year contracts, 25-year contracts. So we are able to take a longer 18-year project finance debt on these projects, which kind of helps to kind of build this whole investment grade thesis around the CNI project itself. So on the LCOE point, we are working on that. Of course, there are other pilot projects that we are working on in terms of providing other sustainability solutions. So, for example, we are working on some pilot to provide green hydrogen for one of our CNI customers because green hydrogen is a fuel stock.
Srini, before we go there, you mentioned storage, which is obviously everybody's very interested to look at. You said you can't achieve the 30 to 40% savings over grid tariff. What kind of savings can you achieve in most cases?
I think in a state like Maharashtra, where if it's a kind of a HT commercial, we are able to be about 10% lower. For an HT industrial, I think we could barely make it to an HT commercial level. So if they're paying 7 rupees, I can do a RE solar wind storage at 7 rupees. But it's whether somebody would come in as a CNI customer, you would come in today and buy 100% of your consumption for 7 rupees, or you would wait for some more time. So there is a gradual thesis around, let me take myself from 30 to 50 to 80. And by the time I hit 80, the balance 20% storage would have dropped cost even further. And I can probably hit an economic value.
Okay. Now, I think Kuldeep mentioned IREX, but I was hoping to kind of hear about biomass. I mean, isn't biomass a viable option, or is the volume a challenge in biomass? Because biomass should, I presume, from the consumer's perspective, that should meet the criteria of more RE. Is that something which is viable? Have you tried that? Or even a technology like offshore wind, which is a much higher LCOE. I know the cost is a bit of a constraint, but hopefully costs will come down over a period of time.
The traditional challenge around biomass, around the whole availability of raw material, and and then again the lenders' nervousness around biomass has always been an issue. I think there is also another market that we are seeing is in terms of refurbishing of old assets. So there are some old wind assets, old hydro assets that we are actively looking at, which kind of provides that alternative for a lithium-ion storage, but it can give that necessary gaps filling into a base load to kind of meet that requirement for a customer to kind of maximize it. But I think, as Kuldeep said, the IREC is one important aspect. But what might be interesting is today there is enough supply of IREC because there were a lot of customers earlier who didn't really care of being 100% RE. So there was all these IRECs. But today you have more and more customers saying, I need the green attributes of all the power that I'm buying. So there's going to be this shortage of IRECs as well. And who is actually going to build a merchant-based portfolio that is enough IRECs in the market, because IRECs are again jurisdictionally restricted. So I cannot buy an IREC out of South America and put it in India. It has to be India-based. So these are other things that will be an interesting discussion for a topic 2 years down the line.
Right. So Kuldeep, any more thoughts on any new technologies? Is hydro a possibility at all, or is it just simply not viable? What about small hydro, maybe some existing projects where you as a developer can contract with the existing developers, maybe bundle it with green power from the exchange? Are any of those routes viable?
Vinay, there are some options. However, the reality is most of these hydel plants were built with the backing of some state PPA. And if that PPA is already in operation, states, rightly so, oppose an asset from willy-nilly moving out of that PPA for a one-sided benefit to them, right? So, which is quite fair. It should be that the PPA should continue. So the stock of potential hydel plants which can do CNI is very, very limited.
Right.
And almost
development
all
is
of
not
them,
an option. And the development is not an option given the time.
We've all seen the slow pace at which hydel moves compared to customers' requirements.
Sure.
So all of the customers we have on this panel today, the focus, as you've seen, and rightly so, is next 24 months.
Right.
How am I going from maybe 50 to 80, 50 to 90, and so on? The 5 to 8 year development cycle of mini hydel with lots of delay potential.
Sorry, what about
it's all in that bucket. It's all in that bucket. At least the experience has been such, unfortunately, given changing environmental norms, delays in permits, and so on. So the experience has not been great. So while those are possibilities, but they are not going to be mainstream. If you think about how much energy is needed and how much we could get through, small hydel, new hydel projects, and so on, it's not really going to make a big dent. We are very hopeful on storage, but the reality is that the storage cost alone, even with very optimistic assumptions of charge, discharge, and so on, just storage is going to cost you minimum 4 rupees per unit of electricity. Right, from a CNI perspective. And that just doesn't work. So it needs to come down a little bit in cost.
Sure. No, fair enough. Since we are running out of time, just very quickly want to go through the whole panel. What is the one thing you would ask the government to do? I mean, of course, we discussed that wind solar hybrid. First of all, wind is not available in some states, and wind solar hybrid policy is not there in some states. Storage is not viable. Hydro is not there. IREX, the supply is limited. What is the one thing that each of you would ask the government for, if you want to accelerate your 100% RE plans? Let's start with Akhil, Bose, and Bipin, that order.
My wish to the government would be that central government should allow the interstate open access and the benefit which they are presently giving to utility scale project should be given to C&I customer also, so that we can also get the waiver of interstate transmission charges for captive open access from the interstate projects.
But how does that help 100% RE? Akhil?
Yeah. So as Kuldeep has already told that wind solar hybrid, there are certain states which can set up wind solar hybrid, but on the other side, if we will get the advantage of interstate transmission charges waiver, so place like Delhi, place like UP, where we cannot get the wind directly, so we can get the advantage of interstate open access and we can maximize our power consumption replacement from the RE.
Understood. Thanks, Akhil. Bipin?
I think I completely echo what Akhil has said, because there are a lot of small states are there where there are facilities and it get difficult to source renewable energy in those states. Apart from that, I would also like government to focus upon policies related to net metering, where sometimes you are in a position in capex or opex to generate electricity, but your consumption may not be so good. So those kind of opportunities, I think if government gives certain levy in policy terms, it will become more attractive across all the states.
Okay. Bose, anything to add to that?
No, I would stick with my 3-point agenda one. I think energy so far and still is the government's business here. They should take the lead. I shouldn't be from an IT perspective, a company. My business is IT. I shouldn't be running around installing solar or wind. If states can facilitate it, that is a no-brainer for me, even at a reasonable fare. Number one. So number two, companies like us, we have a lot of money. They should, exploit that. Companies willing to put their money into captives. So promote that. The third is just open up the open access itself. I think if this thing can happen, I can guarantee in 2-3 years, we will be near 100%.
Okay. Kuldeep, what would you push the government to do?
I think number one, implement the recently announced open access for renewable rules that the government of India has come out with. The rules are very far-reaching. It allows consumers up to 100 kilowatt, so including small hotels and so on, can go green. And it places a burden on the state regulator and DISCOM to allow open access within a limited time frame of 1 month. So what the government is basically saying is, if you are buying renewable energy, then I'll give you open access. Otherwise, we are going to make it tough. And they just need to go ahead and implement that at pace. What that one measure alone will do is it will drive a lot of the demand away from brown heavy grid towards direct sourcing of renewables. And that in turn changes the country's energy mix, because DISCOMs will have less demand. So, the brown power generation and supply will go down, and the green power, new capacities will come to cater to that market. So first is implement the rules they have come out with. Too often governments fail to do that. The rules come out, but you thereafter lose political will to go ahead and do what you in the first place thought was a good thing to do. So that's point number one. Point number two, I would say, is to have there was a lot of BIS energy consumption and energy efficiency norms which the government had come up with, which was achieve and trade ACT norms and so on both energy efficiency and green, and to start implementing that more, and therefore penalize people who are based on their higher carbon footprint for each industry. So what you will end up doing with that achieve and trade measure will be that you will effectively have a carbon cost. In effect, that is what you will do, and it will be applicable by industry. So a green steel company will have a commercial benefit compared to a fossil fuel heavy steel company. So, so to create those enablers is what my request to the government would be for.
Sure. Thank you, Kuldeep. Last but not least, Srini, anything focused towards storage or indeed anything else?
No, I think all the panelists covered some of the most important topics. One additional piece of information that comes to my mind is around clarity of on the supply side, because what has happened is right from the time I signed my first PPA, there is MEDA decides to take away the electricity duty. Then safeguard duty becomes 0, then becomes 40%. Now GST of 12% is come. We are all running an investment business. We are running an infrastructure business that we're trying to build for 25 years. We're taking long-term commitments, putting our balance sheets and guarantees on the line, and it just doesn't dwell well with that space. Let's treat this as a long-term infrastructure sector that India needs for its resilience, energy security, and let's give a roadmap for the next 10, 15 years. And no matter which other government comes, let's not change that so that we are able to give that returns that the lender needs or the equity investor needs.
Sure. Thanks, Srini. Varun, any thoughts from you before we wrap up?
No, I think very well summarized. I think this was a very good idea to run a recommendation, perhaps rapid fire. And I think it sums up the entire session really well. So thanks. Vinay, over to you. You can summarize.
Okay. Good. Thanks, Varun. So look, very interesting. Thank you to all the panelists, Bipin, Bose, Srini, Kuldeep, and Akhil. And of course, my co-moderator, Varun. I think clearly there is a lot of push for 100% RE, but at the same time, understandably, businesses are also reluctant to spend more. So really, I think this is a big challenge for businesses to go from pure solar to solar wind hybrid, which in any case comes at an incremental cost, then to explore other business models, which often entail an extra spend in terms of energy cost. Which is not acceptable. So I think in terms of going forward, the key imperatives are clearly one, more favorable wind solar hybrid policies, interstate open access. Kuldeep mentioned implementing the latest Ministry of Power draft rules. But as we discussed in the morning, a lot of that will depend on buy-in from the states and actual implementation at the state level. So I think with that, we end this session. There is a lot of positivity, but clearly there's a lot of work which still needs to be done to achieve these goals. So thank you very much again. We'll hope to see you in the next session. Thank you. Over to you, Ankita.
Thank you.